Chapter 1. Summer Hayes found a man on the side of the road on a rainy night. When she first saw him, he was covered in blood. The man clutched the corner of her shirt, murmuring incoherently, "Save me, I'll give you any amount of money you want." Summer took him, unconscious, to the hospital. The doctor said she was lucky she brought him in when she did. Otherwise, he surely would have died from blood loss that night. A month later, he woke up, but he had forgotten everything. The man couldn't even remember his own name. Summer was troubled. "Now what? You owe me a month's worth of hospital bills. Who am I supposed to ask for the money? I'll pay it back myself." There wasn't a trace of panic in the man's eyes. He carried himself like a natural-born leader. Summer looked into his deep, inscrutable eyes, and for a moment, her heart skipped a beat. Worried she'd never see her money, Summer ended up taking him home with her. At first, he was her servant, her cook, her bodyguard, though he was clumsy with housework. He didn't know you had to add water to cook rice. And as a bodyguard, his face was so handsome it was a public hazard, causing girls on the street to turn their heads constantly. Then, one day, he started to take charge. He began driving her to and from work, driving away all her suitors as if declaring his sovereignty. He accompanied her to the psychiatric hospital to see her mother, getting scratched until he bled by a distraught Julie Hayes on more than one occasion, yet he never backed down. Later, even her mother, during a rare moment of clarity, held her hand and said, "Summer, that silly big guy who comes to see me all the time, he's a good person. I can only rest easy if I entrust you to a man like him." He was like a spring rain, silently seeping into every corner of Summer's life. With his constant companionship, day after day, Summer's heart began to stir. In the small, stuffy rented room, on the creaking wooden bed, sweat slid down his resolute jaw. He held her waist, as if trying to knead her into his very bones. "Summer, will you marry me? I'll spend the rest of my life loving you, cherishing you, and I'll never let you suffer a single grievance." Summer looked into his sweat-glistened eyes and nodded firmly. "Yes, I will." They pledged their lives to each other under the moon. With no ring, they used one from a soda can instead. With no one to officiate, he spoke the vows to her himself. "For the rest of my life, I will love only Summer Hayes. If I break this vow, may I die a horrible death?" Terrified, Summer immediately covered his mouth. But he just smiled and said it didn't matter, because he would never break his vow. She thought they would be this happy forever. Until the day he said he had to step out for something and never came back. Summer worried all night. The next morning, as soon as it was light, she went out to report him missing. But downstairs, she was met by a line of luxury cars. The gleaming vehicles invaded the run-down courtyard, clashing with everything around them and drawing a crowd of onlookers. The door of the lead car opened, and a woman stepped out, her exquisitely made-up face etched with arrogance. "You must be Summer Hayes." The woman extended a hand. "Hello, I'm Molly Montgomery, Ethan Sterling's fiancée." It was only then that Summer learned the truth. The man she had spent every day with for over a year was not some poor boy off the streets. He was the famous heir to the Sterling family of Jingzhou, Ethan Sterling. A year ago, he had been ambushed during a family power struggle, left injured on the side of the road on a rainy night. Ethan regained his memory 6 months ago and contacted us, his family, immediately. "The reason he stayed with you these past 6 months was to throw people off his trail. He needed time to reclaim everything he had lost, and you became his perfect cover." Molly's red lips opened and closed, her words feeling like a death sentence being pronounced upon Summer. Her heart felt as if a sharp dagger had been plunged into it, shattering it beyond repair. Even the blood that flowed out felt cold. "You mean he had his memory back all this time, but he was lying to me, using me?" "What else?" Molly chuckled, a hint of pity in her eyes. "A man of his status, do you really think he would truly love you? Oh, and one more thing," Molly's smile widened. "Do you know why Ethan went to such great lengths to get close to that fool of a mother of yours?" Her mother? Ethan had told his fiancée everything, even about her mother. Was their relationship that close? Then what was she? What did she count for? She thought of the countless days and nights he had held her, taking her again and again. He had called her baby, called her his wife. All the names a man says only in the depths of passion. Was it all just an act from beginning to end? Summer's eyes burned, and tears began to fall uncontrollably. Molly's voice rang coldly in her ear. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with kidney problems. From that day on, Ethan searched the world for a suitable donor for me. 6 months ago, after he regained his memory, he happened to see your mother's medical report. He later had a doctor secretly run more tests on her and confirmed that your mother's kidney is a match for me. Molly let out a soft laugh. Did you hear that, Summer Hayes? The only reason Ethan got close to your mother, letting her hit him and curse him without fighting back, was because he had his eye on her kidney. He was planning to take it from me. Summer felt as if she had been struck by lightning. All the color drained from her face, and her lips began to tremble. What did you say? That's impossible. He was so good to my mother. How could he? I have proof. Molly took out her phone and played a video. In the video, Julie Hayes, looking confused, was lying on an operating table in some unknown location. The door opened, and a familiar figure walked in. Julie's face lit up. My silly big guy, what new game are we playing? Hide and seek? The man who had once been so gentle with them now wore a coldness Summer had never seen. Doctor, run the tests. At his command, doctors in white coats approached. Her mother began to cry and scream in fear. No needles, it hurts. But the doctors held her down firmly on the table, with so much force that the sound of bones grating could almost be heard. Her mother cried until her voice was hoarse, but no one paid her any mind. They drew 3 full bags of blood before the group finally released her, dragging her off the table like a dirty rag. The video ended there. Summer's tears froze on her face, and the taste of blood rose in her throat. Was this the man she knew? The man who said he would protect her for a lifetime, who would never let her down, was that just a disguise? And his true face, was this cruel? How could he do something like this to a defenseless, mentally ill patient? My mother, Summer clutched her chest, her face pale as she looked up. Where is my mother now, Chapter 2? Do you think I'd tell you? Molly replied nonchalantly. Your mother is my kidney donor. I can't let you take her away unless, she deliberately drew out her words, glancing at Summer. Unless what? Summer asked immediately. Unless you promise to leave Ethan Sterling forever. Then perhaps I could. I promise, Summer answered without a second thought. She grabbed the hem of Molly's clothes, practically begging, Miss Montgomery, I promise I won't get in the way of you and Mr. Sterling. As long as you get my mother out, I'll take her far, far away and will never appear before you again. Molly looked at her, then averted her gaze, her tone heavy. Then it's a deal. In 1 month, I'll get your mother out, and you will disappear completely from Ethan Sterling's world. And during this month, you cannot let Ethan find out that you're planning to leave. Okay. Summer nodded vigorously. A wave of relief washed over her, yet she felt no joy at all. Ethan Sterling, Ethan Sterling. She silently repeated the unfamiliar name as a tide of pain surged, threatening to engulf her. Her vision went black and she fainted. She woke up in a hospital bed. Summer rubbed her blurry eyes, and a familiar figure came into view. Ethan Sterling. She shot up in bed, instinctively shrinking back. Hearing the movement, Ethan looked up. You're awake. He calmly set down the file in his hands. His face was still the same, but the tenderness that used to be in his eyes was gone. Summer felt as if he were standing in a very distant place, so far away that they were in different worlds, so far away that she couldn't reach him. And yet, her body still bore the marks he had left on her in the throes of passion. Just the night before, Summer's nose tingled with a sharp sorrow. Ethan stared at her. Molly told me she came to see you. What did she say? Summer remembered Molly's instructions. She couldn't let Ethan find out she was leaving in a month. She forced back her tears and shook her head. Nothing. Nothing? He sat down on the edge of her bed, his eyes filled with clear suspicion. Really? Summer forced herself to look up calmly. She did. Miss Montgomery told me that you are Ethan Sterling, the heir to the Sterling family. He said tonelessly. What else? And that she's your fiancée. He didn't deny it, which meant he acknowledged his relationship with Molly. Summer's heart felt like it was being fried in a pan of hot oil. What else? That's it, just that. Just that. Ethan suddenly leaned in close. Then why are you afraid of me? They were so close his hot breath almost brushed the tip of her nose. Summer shoved him away abruptly. I'm not afraid of you. Still denying it? Ethan grabbed her wrist. Summer, even though I've recovered my identity, I'm still me. I still like you, and you don't have to be afraid of me. We can still be together. Still be together? Summer stared at him in disbelief. Ethan Sterling, you already have a fiancé. How can we still be together? Ethan raised a hand and gently stroked her face, his voice as soft as a caress. Summer, as long as you're willing, we can be together. As long as she was willing, they could be together. Summer understood the light in her eyes dimmed, bit by bit, and her chest heaved violently. Ethan Sterling, are you asking me to be your mistress? Your lover? You are, shameless, she was trembling all over. Ethan Sterling, tell me, did you get your memory back 6 months ago? Ethan's pupils constricted slightly. Chapter 3. In my position, many things are out of my control. His tone was so calm, as if he were commenting on the weather and not admitting he had deceived her for half a year. Summer's heart felt like it was steeping in ice water, a chill spreading through her entire body. Then, what about my mother? Are you really going to use her as Molly's kidney donor? Are you going to take her kidney? Ethan avoided her gaze. People have 2 kidneys. Taking one won't affect her. People have 2 kidneys. Taking one won't affect her. His words were like a dull knife, slowly and cruelly carving into her heart. She remembered him once saying, Summer, I'll protect you and your mother for the rest of our lives. But now, in the same calm tone, he was discussing harvesting her mother's organ. Ethan Sterling, how can you be so casual about this? Summer's nails dug deep into her palms. She violently grabbed his collar, tears streaming down her face. She's my mother, not some spare part. She cries when she's in pain. She panics when she's scared. You've seen it. You know you have. You know it better than anyone. Summer was practically screaming, her scalding tears landing on the back of his hand. But there was still no flicker of emotion in Ethan's eyes. He just looked at her calmly. Your mother has a mental illness. She doesn't know what's happening. Summer couldn't believe what she was hearing. So? Her voice choked with sobs, each word torn from her chest. From the very beginning, you got close to my mother just to take her kidney, not because you cared about her, right? Ethan frowned slightly, not answering her question directly. Molly needs this kidney very badly. I can guarantee your mother won't die, and I will give you both enough compensation. What will you compensate us with? Summer's tears flowed more fiercely. Money. Status, or your hollow promises. I'll never trust you again. Ethan Sterling, I won't believe a single word you say anymore. He had already lied to her too many times. He had regained his memory 6 months ago, but deliberately kept it from her. He was in contact with his fiancée while pretending nothing had happened, sleeping with her time and time again. He even took her mother for kidney, matching for his fiancée behind her back. Summer's heart ached, as if it had been pierced by countless shards of glass, every breath tasting of blood. The door to the room was suddenly pushed open. Molly rushed in. Ethan, it's bad. The hospital said that Summer's mother. Summer shot her head up. What happened to my mother? Chapter 4. Ethan frowned. Let's talk outside. But Summer blocked their path. Tell me, what's wrong with my mom? Molly glanced at Summer, then at Ethan, hesitating. The doctor said that Summer's mother has been demanding to see her daughter. She even took them by surprise and climbed onto the balcony railing, saying that if she doesn't see her daughter, she's going to jump. A buzzing sound filled Summer's ears. I have to see my mom, Ethan. Let me see my mom, she begged, clutching his sleeve. But Ethan's eyes remained icy without a hint of yielding. You can't go. Why? Her face was a mask of disbelief. Your mother will be fine. I'll have the nurses watch her. But my mother doesn't know them. Summer was on the verge of collapse. She could imagine how terrified her mother must be, surrounded by strangers. She would go mad. They would drive her to her death. Ethan, I'm begging you, just for a quick look, I'll kowtow to you, all right? As she spoke, she knelt before him, her forehead hitting the ground with a clear, heavy thud. Once, twice, 3 times, her forehead quickly became red and swollen. Anger flared in Ethan's eyes. Summer, if you keep this up, I can't guarantee your mother's safety. Summer froze completely. Ethan, are you using my mother to threaten me? Ethan didn't spare her another glance, merely instructing the nurse in a cold voice, watch her. Don't let her act out again, or you'll all have to answer to me. Why? I just want to see my mother for a moment. Is that too much to ask? Summer bit her lip hard, tears streaming down her face. Ethan, why won't you let me go? How can you be so cold-blooded? Ethan said nothing more, turning to leave. His figure quickly vanished through the doorway. Summer remained on the floor, stunned. Molly walked up to her, looking down from her superior height. Don't waste your energy. That's just how Ethan is. No one can change his mind once he's decided on something. Summer's tears continued to fall as she shook her head forcefully. No, that's not him. The Ethan she knew wasn't like this. If he were, how could she have possibly fallen in love with him? A flicker of hatred inexplicably crossed Molly's eyes. Summer Hayes, you think you know him so well? That was only because he had amnesia. Ethan and I grew up together. We were childhood sweethearts. How long have you even known him? Now, Ethan has returned to his rightful life. It's time for you to wake up from your daydream. Summer felt as if her soul had been ripped from her body. Was it really just a dream? The Ethan she knew was never the real him. The sound of high heels faded as Molly left, leaving Summer alone in the hospital room. It was so quiet, quiet enough for her to hear the sound of her own heart shattering. A nurse came in to change her IV. Seeing her on the floor, she quickly helped her up. You can't get cold right now. You should get back in bed. As the nurse helped her toward the bed, she couldn't help but whisper some advice. Mr. Sterling is just trying to protect you. Your mother gets violent when she has an episode. What if she hurts you? Even if you're not thinking about yourself, you should also think about the in your belly. The nurse immediately clapped a hand over her mouth, glancing at her cautiously. Summer didn't hear a word. Her mind was consumed by the image of her mother on the balcony railing. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed, and she could barely breathe. A few days later, on the day of her discharge, the Sterling family sent a car to pick her up. It was Mrs. Sterling, the driver said with a smile. She heard that Miss Hayes saved the young master a year ago and asked me to bring you to the banquet tonight. She wants to thank you properly. Chapter 5. I'm not feeling well, so I'll pass. Summer tried to walk around him. The driver blocked her way. Miss Hayes, please just make an appearance. Our Mrs. Sterling means well. Summer looked up and met his slightly pressuring gaze. She looked away, frowning, but finally nodded. All right, let's go then. Inside the hotel ballroom, the air was filled with fragrant perfumes and shimmering shadows as guests mingled. Standing under the crystal chandelier, Summer felt completely out of place. Everyone was dressed in magnificent attire. While she wore a simple white t-shirt and jeans, she didn't even know where to put her hands, as any position felt awkward and self-conscious. Waiter, another glass of champagne. A tipsy socialite shoved an empty glass into her hand. The tiny diamonds on her nails scratched the back of Summer's hand, and she cried out softly, pulling her hand back. With a crash, the glass fell to the floor, and the room instantly fell silent. All eyes turned to them. The socialite, furious and embarrassed, pointed at Summer and unleashed a torrent of abuse. What's wrong with you? Is this how you wait tables? Are you blind? Summer stood there at a complete loss. Suddenly, a stir went through the crowd. Mr. Sterling and Mrs. Sterling are here. Summer froze for a moment, then looked up to see Ethan Sterling approaching, with an elegant middle-aged woman on his arm. He was wearing a crisp black suit, his handsome face both familiar and strange. Two others accompanied them, Molly and her mother. Molly was wearing a stunning silver-gray mermaid gown, looking noble, elegant, and poised. Look how perfect they are, the eldest daughter of the Montgomery family and the heir of the Sterling family. Now that's a match made in heaven. Did you see that diamond necklace on Miss Montgomery? It's worth over $100 million. Mr. Sterling bought it at an auction 2 years ago just to make her happy. The lights in the ballroom were too bright, making Summer's eyes sting. A man's voice suddenly came from above her, cold and sharp. What are you doing here? Summer flinched and looked up into Ethan Sterling's face. Mrs. Sterling sized her up, then looked away and asked her son, Ethan, who is this? Summer pressed her lips together, unsure if she should introduce herself. Molly's clear voice rang out, Auntie Victoria, this is Summer Hayes. She's the girl who saved Ethan a year ago. So it's her? Victoria Sterling finally reacted, her gaze returning to Summer, scanning her from head to toe. You invited her? For an occasion like this, why is she dressed like that? Summer's head snapped up. Hadn't Mrs. Sterling sent the driver to pick her up? That's what the driver had just told her. Victoria suppressed the emotion in her eyes and spoke coolly. Miss Hayes, is it? Thank you for saving Ethan. Summer was so stunned it took her a moment to speak. You're welcome. Before she could finish, Victoria spoke again. You could be considered a friend of Ethan's, I suppose. In that case, I must ask, what do your parents do for a living? The defensiveness in Victoria's tone was unmistakable. It was as if she was afraid her son would be tricked by this woman. All eyes in the room were fixed on her, and Summer felt as if 1,000 ants were crawling on her skin. I don't have a father. My mother has a mental illness. Chapter 6. As her words fell, an uproar swept through the room. Ethan Sterling's brow furrowed slightly, while a faint, almost imperceptible smile played on Molly's lips. Victoria Sterling had expected her family background to be poor, but not this poor for a moment. She was too stunned to react. "Oh my," Molly's mother, Catherine, suddenly exclaimed. She leaned in close to Victoria's ear, but her voice was loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Victoria, don't you think she looks a lot like that? That bar hostess from the Golden Goblet nightclub 20 years ago, Ayu. Ayu was a famous beauty Miss Hayes's features. They look so much like hers. Back then, Ayu got pregnant by some passing tycoon, and the man's wife sent people to beat her up, which drove her mad. Miss Hayes's mother is also insane. What a coincidence, don't you think?" A wave of murmurs rippled through the guests. Summer felt as if the blood in her veins was turning to ice. Golden Goblet, that was a name her mother often mumbled during her episodes. She had never known what it meant. It was a nightclub. Her mother was a bar hostess when she was young, and she was the illegitimate daughter from her mother's affair with a rich man. It really is. Summer Hayes looks just like Ayu. So she's an illegitimate child. No wonder she said she doesn't have a father. Ayu was so good at seducing men, how could she not have a father? It's more likely she doesn't know which man is her father. The room erupted in laughter. Summer trembled all over. She didn't understand how things had escalated to this. So sordid. So humiliating. Victoria was so angry she was sputtering. That hussy, Ayu, half the men in Jingzhou were involved with her. "Ethan," she warned her son sternly, "if you have any regard for the Sterling family's reputation, you'll stay away from this woman." But Ethan's gaze remained fixed on Summer. No one could tell what he was thinking. Crash in the chaos, someone knocked over the champagne tower. Summer fell into the pile of broken glass, her palms instantly slick with blood. A sharp pain shot through her lower abdomen. She looked down and saw warm blood slowly trickling from between her legs. The already chaotic scene descended further into pandemonium. "Oh my God, don't tell me she's pregnant." She looked so young, 20 at most, and already so promiscuous, a bar hostess's daughter, just like her mother, I suppose. The surrounding whispers slithered into her ears like venomous snakes. Summer's face was deathly pale, her lips trembling. "It hurts." Ethan's eyes darkened. The next second, he took a step in her direction. "What are you doing?" Victoria grabbed her son's arm. "Ethan, are you insane? Why are you getting involved in this mess?" Ethan's lips moved, but before he could speak, someone in the crowd shouted, "Mr. Sterling, were you with Summer Hayes for the entire year you were gone?" The baby in Summer Hayes's belly, it couldn't be yours, could it? The room fell deathly silent. Chapter 7. Ethan remained silent, and the crowd grew restless again. It couldn't be true, could it? A woman this lowly is carrying Mr. Sterling's child. Then what about Miss Montgomery, their childhood sweethearts? Is Mr. Sterling going to abandon Miss Montgomery for a bar hostess's daughter? The whispers grew nastier. Molly's eyes reddened. "Ethan," Victoria was frantic. "Ethan, aren't you going to clear this up? Tell everyone you have nothing to do with this tramp." Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. His gaze cut through the crowd and met Summer's. She looked like she'd been abandoned on a deserted island. Surrounded by a churning sea, he was the only lifeline she could grasp. Ethan coldly withdrew his gaze. "I have no relationship with Summer Hayes." Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, he finally said the words. Everyone was satisfied. Victoria let out a long sigh of relief. Molly's tears turned to a smile. The guests quickly changed their tune. "I knew it. Mr. Sterling has always been a man of integrity. How could he get involved with a woman like that? The Sterling family can't afford that kind of embarrassment. Mr. Sterling knows what he's doing." Only Summer, who was biting her lip so hard she could have drawn blood, felt pain in every inch of her body. Especially her heart. It was an agonizing, soul-crushing pain. In a daze, she thought of the countless nights they had spent huddled together on the wooden bed in that tiny rented room. He had kissed her insatiably, possessed her, and said he wanted to be with her forever. Now, it all sounded like a joke. Are a man's vows made just to be broken? But she had foolishly believed him. She had fallen in love with him, loved him without reservation. If only she had loved him a little less, she wouldn't be in so much pain right now. Summer closed her eyes in despair, letting herself collapse into the pool of blood. In the second before she lost consciousness, she thought she saw Ethan break free from Victoria and run toward her. She smiled at her own foolishness. Even now, she still couldn't let go. Summer opened her eyes. Everything was unfamiliar. A room decorated in shades of gray and white, with sunlight filtering through the cracks in the curtains. She subconsciously raised a hand to shield her eyes. The door was ajar, and the low voices of a man and a woman drifted in. "Ethan, the nurse told me you took Summer Hayes from the hospital, and I didn't believe it. I never thought you'd actually bring her back to your own house." Auntie Victoria doesn't like Summer Hayes. Her background is terrible, and she doesn't conduct herself properly. She'll bring shame to the Sterling family. Surely you know that. Why do you insist on being so close to her? It was Molly. She spoke at length, but Ethan didn't say a word in reply. Molly's tone suddenly grew urgent. "Ethan, the last time the doctor found out Summer was pregnant, you didn't want to get rid of the baby. You even stopped her from seeing her mother because you were afraid her mother would have an episode and hurt her. The way you're protecting Summer, protecting the baby in her belly, don't tell me you've actually fallen in love with her. Molly, I have a question for you." Ethan finally spoke, his voice as cold as ice. "At the banquet that night, your mother suddenly brought up that bar hostess, you, and publicly exposed Summer's background. That wasn't a coincidence, was it? And that night, why was Summer at the banquet in the first place? That had something to do with you too as well, didn't it?" Molly froze. Inside the room, Summer froze too. She had only thought that everything that night was too coincidental. It had never occurred to her that it was all intentional. Molly and her mother had tricked her into going to the banquet, and it was them who had deliberately exposed her shameful past in front of everyone. Chapter 8. I just thought, Molly stammered badly. "I'm not interested in what you were thinking," Ethan cut her off coldly. "I won't pursue what happened that night, but don't you dare pull these kinds of tricks under my nose again. I don't like manipulative women." Summer's heart sank. He knew it was Molly and her mother who had set her up, yet he still decided not to do anything about it. A sarcastic smile touched her lips. Of course. Molly was his fiancée, the daughter-in-law his mother approved of. And what was she? He had even said to her face that he wanted her to be his secret lover. Even the child in her belly that night, he had publicly denied any connection to her. Summer's eyes were filled with broken pieces. "Ethan, don't worry, I won't do it again. I was just confused this time. The child in Summer's womb is mine." Before Molly could finish, Ethan interrupted her. Her voice took on a bitter edge. "I know." Ethan remained unnervingly calm. "I won't abort this child. I'm going to keep him." It took Molly a long moment to speak. "Ethan, are you going to continue with Summer? Don't misunderstand." His voice was brutally cool. "This has nothing to do with Summer. I just want my own child." "Molly, your health is poor. Even with a successful transplant, it won't be suitable for you to get pregnant in the future, and I wouldn't want you to suffer through that. This child will be given to you to raise. He will call you mother and be the heir to the Sterling family. He will have no relationship with Summer Hayes." Summer gripped the bedsheet so tightly her knuckles turned white. The pain in her abdomen started again, but more painful than any physical wound was the ache in her heart. So that's how it was. First, he wanted to dig out her mother's kidney to cure Molly. Now, because he was worried about Molly's health, he planned to take her child as well. Was he going to squeeze every last drop of value out of her? "Molly, I'm telling you this so you don't get the wrong idea. I stopped Summer from seeing her mother because I was worried about her health, but only because of the child in her womb. Bringing her from the hospital and putting her up in my house was for the same reason." Tears streamed down her face, staining the white sheets. Summer bit her lip to keep from crying out. Finally, she wrapped herself in the quilt, sobbing until she could hardly breathe. She had to leave. She had to get away from Ethan Sterling completely. There was 1 week left until the day she had agreed upon with Molly. Once Molly helped her get her mother out, she could take her mom and flee. She would never see Ethan Sterling again in this lifetime. An unknown amount of time past the conversation outside the door ceased. Summer had also calmed down. The door opened and Ethan walked in. She immediately shut her eyes. The bed dipped beside her as he sat down. "Summer?" Ethan reached out a finger, gently tracing the lines of her face, his palm warm. But Summer only felt a bone-deep chill. His hand paused, then moved to the corner of her eye, wiping away a lingering tear. Summer heard him sigh softly. "You were crying. Even in your dreams, you're this upset? Summer, do you remember what I said? In my position, many things are out of my control. The Sterling family rests on my shoulders, and there are many people eyeing my position. I have a lot of things I need to resolve." He said no more. He sat quietly by the bed for a long time before getting up and leaving. The sound of the door closing echoed. Summer opened her eyes. One more week. She just had to get through this last week. The next day, as Ethan walked to the villa's entrance, the butler hurried to greet him. "Mr. Sterling, wonderful news." The butler's excitement was palpable. "Miss Hayes is awake, and she's willing to eat." Ethan stopped in his tracks and bounded up the stairs. He pushed open the bedroom door. Summer was sitting by the window, her fair face bathed in a soft halo of light. She had lost a lot of weight. The smallest size of pajamas looked loose on her, revealing her prominent collarbones, but her eyes were no longer lifeless. When she saw him, she even took the initiative to greet him. "Ethan, you're back." Ethan felt his heart skip a beat. Chapter 9. For the past month, he had seen her break down in tears, seen her faint from refusing to eat, but he had never seen her this calm. This version of her sent Ethan into a momentary daze. It was as if he had returned to the past, to the days when they relied on each other, living in that small, rented room. Suppressing the turmoil in his mind, Ethan walked over and knelt before her. "Does it still hurt?" he asked, his voice hoarse, his gaze falling on her still flat abdomen. Summer shook her head. Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. "Summer, eat well, take care of yourself, and give birth to our child safely." "Okay." Summer's voice was calm, but a flicker of mockery crossed her eyes. Give birth to the child, and then give him to Molly? The following days were as beautiful as a dream. Summer remained quiet, but she no longer resisted Ethan. When he was working, she would curl up quietly on the nearby sofa and read. By the time he finished his work, she would be asleep. He would lie down on the sofa with her, wrap his arms around her waist from behind, and bury his face in her neck. The sofa was about the same width as the bed in their old rental. Time seemed to flow backward. In that moment, he was back in the past, during the time they were most in love. The Summer of then would smile at him, get angry at him, her eyes filled with nothing but him. Ethan suddenly realized how much he missed the past. A few days later, he said he had a surprise for her and drove her out of the house. The car stopped in front of the rundown neighborhood. Ethan had brought her back to the rented room. Summer stood at the door, a little stunned. "I've bought this place," Ethan said, hugging her from behind, his chin resting on top of her head. "Because we have too many memories here. Do you remember the night you agreed to be my girlfriend? We were sitting around this dining table, and you saw the cuts on my hand and just started crying." Summer's eyes stung so much she could barely keep them open. She remembered. Of course, she remembered. The only man she had ever loved in her entire life was Ethan Sterling. How could you so easily forget someone you had truly loved? She clearly remembered every single day they had spent together. But at the same time, she was tragically aware that the man in her memories was not the man standing before her now. Ethan suddenly cupped her face right in the spot where they had shared their first kiss. He leaned down, intending to kiss her lips again. But Summer turned her head away. Her eyes felt hot, but her heart was a desolate landscape. "Ethan, don't. Summer, you don't want to?" "No, I'm just afraid you'll lose control and hurt the baby." "Summer, I won't touch you. Just a little kiss, okay?" "Ethan, please, for me, for our baby, can you just bear with it for a little while?" She looked at him cautiously, afraid he would refuse. Ethan released her. "Fine, I promise. It's only 10 months. I can wait." He smiled as he said it, but Summer's eyes began to redden. "Ethan," she choked out, "do you want this child that badly?" "Of course." Ethan hugged her and lay down with her on the creaking wooden bed. He called her name, his hot breath fanning her ear, and just as she was about to lose herself in the moment, "Summer, I don't want to lie to you. I'm going to marry Molly." Summer stiffened in his arms. Her feverish mind cleared instantly. He was always like this. Just when she was about to lose track of whether he was the Ethan of now or the Ethan of before, he would pull her back to reality. A flicker of mockery crossed Summer's eyes. "Okay, I understand. Summer, just give me a little more time. I'll take care of everything." "Summer?" Ethan turned her face toward him, looking at her earnestly. Once I've handled everything, we'll be together forever. Ethan was overjoyed, pulling her into a tight embrace. Summer's gaze drifted over his head to the round moon outside the window. Even the moonlight was dim. Night fell. The man behind her was sound asleep. Summer opened her eyes. A commercial van was parked at the entrance of the quiet alley. The rear door opened. Mom. Summer rushed excitedly toward her mother, but Molly blocked her path. Summer Hayes, I've brought your mother out, safe and sound, as we agreed. Shouldn't you fulfill your promise as well? Molly, don't worry, I'll take my mother and leave. We'll go far, far away and never come back. Good, I believe you, but I have one more condition. Molly took a bottle of pills from her bag. Drink this and the child in your belly will cease to exist. Summer's gaze froze. Molly's expression became a little unnatural. Summer Hayes, don't look at me like that. I'm a woman too. I know how important a child is to a woman, especially when it's his child you're carrying. You might not believe this, but I love him. I love him so much I can't even bear to give up his child. I had a million ways to make you, accidentally, lose the baby, but I waited until today. I wouldn't be making you do this if I wasn't forced to. Summer, you should know as well as I do, as long as this child exists, you and Ethan will never be truly apart. After a moment of silence, Summer reached out and took the bottle of pills. I'll drink it. With that, she got into the van. Just before the van drove off, the window rolled down again. Molly, I still have to ask you one question. You let my mother go, so what about your kidney? Summer Hayes, you could never understand how much I love him. I've loved him for over 20 years. As long as he can belong to me and me alone, I'd rather not have a kidney. Molly laughed at herself. Summer looked at her with a complicated expression. Averting her gaze, she told the driver, Sir, let's go. We have to leave before dawn, and the farther, the better. She had put a sedative in the water Ethan drank. He wouldn't wake up before morning. Chapter 10, Ethan dreamt all night. In his dream, he was back in the days when he had lost his memory, back in that tiny rented room. Summer was laughing and tumbling with him onto the sofa. She was lying beneath him, looking at him with adoring eyes. Ethan, moved by passion, Ethan lowered his head to kiss her. But suddenly, she shattered like glass. Summer, Ethan jolted awake from the dream. His temples throbbed. He raised a hand to rub them and turned to his side. The bed was empty. Where was Summer? Ethan was instantly wide awake, sitting up in bed. The rented room was tiny. He scanned it, but there was no sign of her. He picked up his phone to check the time, his brow furrowing. For years, attending the Sterling Group's morning meetings, his internal clock had been astonishingly accurate. But how had he slept until almost noon today? Where had Summer gone? Was it so late that she had already gone out? Ethan immediately grabbed his phone to call her. But just then, he received an incoming call. It was from the hospital. The doctor's voice was frantic. Mr. Sterling, it's terrible. Ethan's heart dropped. What is it? It's Mrs. Hayes, Summer's mother. Ethan's heart immediately leapt into his throat. What happened to her? Mrs. Hayes, she's gone. Ethan's mind went blank for a second. Summer was gone. Her mother was also gone. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Explain yourself. What do you mean, gone? Well, today was the day of the kidney transplant surgery. We went to get Mrs. Hayes early this morning, but she wasn't in her room. The nurse said she hadn't left her room all morning. She just vanished into thin air. We've searched the entire hospital, but we can't find her. We couldn't reach your phone, so we called Miss Montgomery. Miss Montgomery was very calm, said if she's gone, and that she didn't need the kidney anyway. Do you think Miss Montgomery is so distraught she started talking nonsense? This was the kidney you worked so hard to find for her. The doctor said more, but Ethan didn't hear a word of it. His head was buzzing. What about the security cameras? There are cameras in the hospital hallways. Didn't they see where she went? The hospital's security cameras happened to malfunction last night. The cameras malfunctioned. Summer and her mother disappeared at the same time. None of this seemed like a coincidence. The chill in Ethan's eyes deepened. Find her, now I don't care if you have to tear the city apart. Find her, Chapter 11. In the office, the air was cold enough to freeze. 3 full days had passed, yet there was still no sign of Summer. Ethan stood with his back to the door, facing the floor-to-ceiling window, his hands clenched into fists, knuckles white. A knock came at the door. He spun around instantly, his voice like ice. Come in, his assistant hurried in to report. Mr. Sterling. We have a lead. I got the street surveillance footage from the night Miss Hayes left. We saw her get into a black commercial van. Find it fine that van now? We already have. The van was parked at an auto repair shop. It was empty. It's like Miss Hayes vanished from the face of the earth. After the words were spoken, Ethan stood motionless for a long time, so quiet it made his assistant nervous. The surveillance footage? Did you examine every detail? Is there no clue at all as to where she went? We did, sir. There's really nothing out of the ordinary. Give it to me, get me the footage. Yes, Mr. Sterling, I'll get it for you right away. The assistant scrambled out of the room. Ethan remained standing there. The neon lights from outside cast a pale, bloodless glow on his handsome face. Summer, where in the world did you go? He thought back on all her recent strange behavior, her sudden compliance, the precious warmth that had blossomed between them. Was it all just because she was already preparing to leave him? Ethan staggered back, knocking over a picture frame on his desk. Amid the sound of shattering glass, a photo hidden beneath was revealed. It was Summer. She was wearing an apron in their small rented room, holding up a burnt pot with an exasperated look, demanding, "My silly big guy, you don't even know you have to add water to cook rice. You owe me a new pot?" He had found her angry expression so adorable that he'd taken the picture and treasured it to this day. Summer, Summer, her name was a sharp knife, plunging into his heart, churning it into a bloody mess. He had to find her. He would find her at any cost. The assistant quickly returned with the surveillance footage. Ethan opened the video, examining it frame by frame. When he saw one particular image, his eyes flashed, and he hit pause. Molly Montgomery. She had let Summer go, which meant she must know where Summer went. Ethan's eyes instantly turned dark and menacing. Get Molly Montgomery in here. Chapter 12. Molly walked in, her high heels clicking on the floor, her expression as calm as a pool of still water. You let Summer and her mother go, didn't you? Ethan's voice trembled. I did. Molly made no attempt to deny it. I let them both go. Why, you knew how important she is to me. A terrifying storm brewed in Ethan's eyes. Is that so? Molly looked up, her eyes welling with red. Ethan, didn't you say you only got close to Summer's mother to cure my illness? Didn't you say you brought Summer back just as a plaything, a diversion? Why is it that now that she's gone, you're saying she's important to you? He didn't answer. She broke down crying. Ethan, you love Summer. You can't lie to yourself, and you can't lie to me. Ethan's pupils contracted sharply. Yes, he loved Summer. He had thought that deliberately being cold and distant was a way to protect her, but he couldn't hide it after all. Since that was the case, there was no need to hide it anymore. Yes, I love her. I love Summer Hayes. Molly, since you know I love her, you'd better tell me where she went. Otherwise, don't blame me for what happens next. Molly felt a gaping hole open in her chest, cold wind whistling through it. I don't know, she let out a low laugh. I don't know where Summer went, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Ethan, you should have cut all ties with her long ago. Ethan slammed her against the wall, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. You're asking to die, Molly. Tell me where she is, or I'll kill you right now. How dare you let her go? You deserve to die. Molly desperately clawed at his hand, her nails leaving deep scratches on his skin. Suddenly, she smiled, a look of resignation and release on her face. Ethan, even if you kill me, Summer won't come back to you, because she's the one who wanted to leave. She doesn't love you anymore. That's why she was so desperate to escape from you. She's afraid of you. Ethan froze, as if petrified. His hand loosened, and Molly slid to the floor, clutching her throat and coughing violently. His mind was buzzing. What did she just say? That Summer didn't love him anymore? Impossible. She loved him so much, she gave him everything, her eyes were full of him. How could she suddenly stop loving him? Impossible. Ethan shook his head, looking like a lost child. She loves me. Her heart and soul are all mine. Looking at him like this, Molly felt both heartbroken and pathetic. Was this still the high and mighty heir of the Sterling family, Ethan Sterling? He had reduced himself to this for a woman. When Summer left, she said she never wanted to see you again. And Molly looked at him. I'll tell you one more thing. When Summer left, she had already aborted your child, Ethan. It's time to wake up. Ethan was stunned. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Did Summer hate him that much, that not only did she never want to see him again, she even got rid of their child? Arg, he slammed his fist against the wall, letting out a heart-wrenching scream. His heart felt like it had been torn into a million pieces, bleeding profusely. It was all his fault. This was all his fault. He had brought this upon himself. Why did he have to be so cruel to her? Why didn't he just tell everyone, loud and clear, that he loved her, that he had fallen in love with Summer Hayes? If he had done that, maybe Summer wouldn't have left him. He regretted it so much. Chapter 13. It's all my fault. Ethan clutched his head in remorse. I'm the one who pushed her away. It's my fault. All of it is my fault. Molly couldn't believe what she was seeing. This man, so humbled by love, was this really the great heir of the Sterling family, Ethan Sterling? He had always been so proud, so cold, so ruthless. But now, for Summer, for one woman, he was blaming himself like this. The more he acted this way, the more she felt she had done the right thing. Summer would only destroy him. Ethan, wake up. Your relationship with Summer was just an accident. She never loved the real you. She loved the you with amnesia. The day you brought her back, I told her everything. As soon as she knew, she decided to leave you. She never loved the real you. The real you frightens her. Ethan let out a low laugh. So what? He looked up, his eyes bloodshot and filled with a stark resolution. As long as I love her, that's enough. It was my mistake before. I lost her, but now I know I was wrong. I won't make the same mistake again. I have to find her, repent to her, atone for my sins. No matter what, I have to keep her by my side, because I can't live without her. He gave a slight smile. Molly, I'm not going to marry you again. The only person I want to marry is Summer Hayes. Molly felt as if a knife had been plunged straight into her heart. Ethan, you're breaking off the engagement? He didn't speak. She took a step back, her voice rising sharply. Are you insane? If you don't marry me, do you think the Montgomery family will continue to support you? Don't forget how you became the Sterling family heir in the first place. She was right. Without the support of the Montgomery family, Ethan's position as the Sterling heir would not be secure. And if not for that consideration, Ethan would never have considered a marriage alliance with her in the first place. But now, none of that mattered. Summer was gone. Everything else had become insignificant to him. He just wanted to find her. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window, the city lights blurred in the rain. Ethan's voice was more determined than ever. There's more than one way to live, and I don't have to be the Sterling heir. It's true that Summer and I are from different worlds. But because I stumbled into her world and felt that warmth, I can't be without her now. He pointed a finger toward the door, his expression cold and resolute. Molly, you should go. You saved my life when we were children, so I won't hold it against you for letting Summer go. But from now on, we have no relationship. Molly couldn't feel the pain, because a deeper pain was exploding in her heart, tearing her to shreds. After she left, Ethan closed his eyes in agony. Summer, where in the world did you go? No matter where you are, I will find you. Chapter 14. Ethan went to the room where Summer had stayed. His fingertips traced over each of her belongings, his heart dripping blood, torn apart by longing. He opened a drawer and took out a sealed file folder from the very bottom. Inside was a stock transfer agreement he had already signed. He had his lawyer prepare this agreement the day he brought Summer back. It transferred half of his shares in the Sterling Group to her name. He couldn't give her a title. But besides a title, he could give her everything he owned. He had already planned their future together, but she would never have the chance to know any of it. Outside the window, it had started to rain again, the drops pattering against the glass. Ethan remembered a rainy night 20 years ago. That night, Victoria Sterling had found him in a shanty town on the outskirts of Jingzhou and brought him back to the Sterling estate. Ethan was not Victoria's biological child. In fact, Victoria was unable to have children otherwise. This vast family fortune would never have fallen to him. At the banquet that night, when Summer's background was publicly exposed, everyone was shocked to learn she was the daughter of a bar hostess. Ethan was shocked too, but he was the only one who was shocked by how similar she was to him. Ethan was an illegitimate son, hidden from the light. His mother had been a stripper, abandoned by the old Mr. Sterling after a one-night stand. He grew up in the shantytowns. When he was 8, his mother died in that filthy rented room from an overdose of pills. He was taken in by Victoria Sterling. Victoria needed a clever pawn to help her fight for the Sterling family assets after her husband died in a car accident, and Ethan became the perfect candidate. In the grand, deep-seated family compound, he learned to disguise, to scheme, to be ruthless in order to survive. At the age of 20, he personally sent his rivals, his two cousins, to prison. Molly was right. He had climbed to his position as the sterling heir on the blood of others. The journey had been incredibly difficult, until that rainy night when he was hunted by those seeking revenge, covered in blood and collapsed on the side of the road. He saw a pair of clear eyes. Summer knelt down and, after a moment's hesitation, reached out her hand to him. "Can you stand up on your own?" She was a beam of light that shone into his life. It was as if God had taken pity on him and granted him a long vacation. Looking back on it later, the days of his amnesia were the happiest of his entire life. He clumsily learned to do housework, turning the neat and tidy rented room into a mess. He didn't know how to cook and ruined many of her pots and pans. Summer would get angry too, but after her anger subsided, she would kneel down and help him clean up. She was beautiful, and there was no shortage of men pursuing her. At first, it was out of his bodyguard duty that he blocked the men who came up to ask for her number on the street. Later, he began to take the initiative. Ethan had seen too many beautiful women. He didn't know why he had fallen for Summer in particular. Perhaps it was one late night when they were squeezed together on the narrow sofa in the rented room, watching an old movie. Summer had fallen asleep on his shoulder. When he turned his head, his lips brushed gently against the top of her hair, and the touch was like a feather tickling his heart. Ethan buried his face deep into the quilt so no one would see him cry. He hadn't cried in many years. Crying and whimpering were not ways to survive in a place like the Sterling household. But after meeting Summer, everything started to go off track. On the pillow, on the quilt, on the sheets, everywhere was the familiar, fresh scent of Summer. Ethan's throat felt as if it were being choked, and he sobbed, his whole body trembling. Chapter 15. Summer, are you getting revenge on me? Revenge for all the times I lied to you, so for this last time, it's your turn to lie to me. I just want you to come back. You can lie to me, hit me, curse me, anything. Summer, I'm just begging you to come back. Summer, are you really that cruel? Are you never going to see me again for the rest of your life? Ethan let out a low laugh, raising a hand to cover his eyes, but a hot wetness seeped through his fingers. His phone suddenly rang. It was his assistant. "Mr. Sterling, we checked the hospital records. Miss Hayes did not have an abortion procedure at the hospital, nor was she prescribed any abortion pills." It was Molly Montgomery who was prescribed a bottle of pills. I carefully reviewed the surveillance footage from the night Miss Hayes left. Miss Hayes took the pills but didn't drink them, which means your child is most likely still alive. Ethan shot up from the bed. After so many days, finally, some good news. He hadn't fully believed Molly, which was why he had his assistant check if Summer had really had an abortion. He never expected to find out that Molly had lied to him. A lump formed in Ethan's throat, and he felt like crying. "I'm coming to the office now." Hanging up, he got up to leave. Just as he stepped out of the bedroom, his phone rang again. This time, it was Victoria Sterling. The moment he answered, Victoria's furious voice came through. "The Montgomerys said you want to call off the wedding. Are you insane? You get back to the main house right now and explain yourself to me in person. Mom, I'll talk to you about this later. I have something more important to do right now." What could be more important? Don't tell me it's about that woman, Summer Hayes, again. Ethan froze. "Yes, I'm going to find Summer," Victoria exploded. "I think you've lost your mind. You've been bewitched by that woman." Before she could finish, the line went dead. Ethan rushed to the company as fast as he could. Just as he arrived at the building, his car was blocked by several others. A line of black Maybachs formed a barricade. The door of the lead car opened, and Victoria Sterling stormed out. "Ethan, where are you going?" "Don't stop me. I'm going to find Summer." "You really are insane." Victoria trembled with rage, and with a wave of her hand, several large bodyguards stepped forward. Ethan threw a punch, knocking down the first bodyguard who approached. "I said don't stop me." His eyes were bloodshot, like a cornered, enraged beast. "I have to find her. Don't force me." Chapter 16. Victoria strode forward and slapped him across the face. The sharp crack echoed as the blow landed hard on Ethan's cheek, turning half his face red. "Are you sober now? In the ancestral hall, your father's memorial tablet and those of all your Sterling ancestors are watching you, this unfilial son. Debase yourself like this for a woman." Ethan's body went rigid. Victoria waved her hand again, signaling the bodyguards behind her. This time, as the bodyguards approached, Ethan didn't resist, allowing them to lead him into the car. Inside the Sterling family's ancestral hall, Ethan knelt on a prayer cushion, his back ramrod straight, facing dozens of somber memorial tablets. The newest one in the front row belonged to his cousin, who had committed suicide after Ethan had sent him to prison. Do you want to end up like him? Victoria grabbed a discipline ruler from the altar table and struck him hard across the back. In a place like the Sterling family, you either succeed or you're pushed out with no place to survive. I thought you understood that long ago. And now, for a woman, you're going to give up everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Another strike. The sound of the ruler hitting flesh mixed with Victoria's furious scolding. If I hadn't found you in that shantytown back then, you would have died with that mother of yours. Would you be where you are today? I raised you like my own son, and this is how you repay me. Do you want to watch me die? Then you might as well kill me yourself. Victoria Sterling, would rather die than fail. No matter how Victoria berated him, Ethan remained silent. He stared at the blue-tiled floor, remembering a time long ago when Summer first saw the intricate network of scars on his back. My silly big guy, did you used to do hard labor? Why are there so many scars on your back? I don't remember, maybe. Her fingers had trembled as she gently traced those gruesome scars, large tears falling from her eyes. I don't need you to make a lot of money. I just need you to be safe. My silly big guy, please don't go out and do hard labor anymore. Ethan's body ached from Victoria's beating, but his heart was warm. He gave a self-deprecating smile. How could Summer have ever guessed that he wasn't some laborer, but the esteemed heir of the Sterling family? And the scars on his body weren't from earning a living. They were from his mother's discipline. I will not marry Molly, he said, his voice raw. I want Summer Hayes. She left me because I couldn't give her a proper title, so I'll give it to her. I'll give her whatever she wants, as long as she doesn't leave. Chapter 17. Victoria snatched a teacup and threw it at him. Cold tea splashed across Ethan's face, and a shard of porcelain cut a line of blood on his temple. You worthless thing, what do you think the Sterling family is? A playground? Do you have any idea that your second uncle's people are keeping a close watch on the finance department? Your aunt just won over 3 board members last week. And now you're telling me you don't want the proper Miss Montgomery, you want a bar hostess's daughter as your wife. You're digging your own grave. Blood trickled down his jaw, staining his white shirt. But Ethan just smiled. I'm the son of a bar hostess too. Didn't you still bring me back all those years ago? You, Victoria trembled with rage and struck him across the face with the ruler again. I'll beat you to death, I'll kill you, you unfilial son, we'll die together, the two of us. The ruler struck Ethan's body again and again. His body swayed and he collapsed. Ethan, Victoria cried out as she caught her fainting son. The ancestral hall was thrown into chaos. Something rolled out of Ethan's pocket. It was a ring from a soda can, gleaming faintly in the moonlight. Victoria froze. She remembered seeing an identical soda can ring on Summer Hayes. Ethan opened his eyes to the smell of disinfectant. His vision was still blurry, the lights making him dizzy. He saw 2 figures in the distance. Doctor, when will he wake up? It's hard to say. Mr. Sterling fainted from a severe blow and emotional exhaustion. And before he collapsed, he likely hadn't eaten or slept properly for many days. Emotional exhaustion? A woman murmured. Hearing her voice, Ethan froze completely. He wondered if he was hallucinating. He rubbed his eyes hard. His vision cleared, and his whole body began to tremble. He hadn't misheard. It really was Summer. Summer, the woman's body stiffened, and she turned around quickly. You're awake. Summer, is it really you? In that moment, Ethan couldn't believe his eyes. He wondered if he was dreaming. Otherwise, how could he be seeing Summer in his hospital room? He struggled to sit up, and she hurried over. Let me help you. The doctor said you're very weak right now and need to rest. Ethan's body went rigid. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting mottled shadows on her face. Those familiar features made his heart nearly stop. Summer, his voice was raspy, barely a whisper. He reached out a trembling hand to touch her face. You came back. Summer hesitated for a moment, then took his hand. Her fingertips were cool. Yes, I heard you fainted, and I was worried. Ethan pulled her into his arms, his grip so tight it felt like he was trying to crush her into him. He buried his face in her neck, breathing in her familiar scent, his voice choked with emotion. As long as you're back, I thought I'd never see you again. Do you have any idea how scared I was?" Summer gently patted his back, as if comforting a frightened child. "I'm sorry, it was my fault before. Now that I'm back, I'm not leaving again." She took his hand and placed it gently on her lower abdomen. "Besides, we have a child now." Ethan looked at her and smiled. "The baby is still here, right?" "Summer, I knew you wouldn't be so cruel." Summer smiled back. "Yes, this is your child after all. How could I bear to part with it? I've thought it over. Even without a title, I want to stay by your side because I love you." Chapter 18. An immense joy surged through Ethan's chest. He hugged her tightly again, planting a shower of kisses on her hair. "Summer, I finally heard you say you love me again. I love you too, Summer. For this life and the next, I will only love you. I believe you. I've always believed you, Mr. Sterling." Ethan's body went rigid. He slowly released his hold, placed his hands on her shoulders, and pushed her away to study her face carefully. This face was identical to the one in his memory, down to the tiny mole at the corner of her eye. But his Summer would never call him Mr. Sterling. "Who are you?" Ethan's voice turned abruptly cold. The woman's eyes flickered, then she resumed her gentle expression. "I'm Summer Hayes. What's wrong? You don't recognize me anymore? Are you still not feeling well?" Ethan shoved her away and struggled to get out of bed. The woman tried to help him, but he threw her off violently. "Don't touch me, you're not Summer. Who are you? Who sent you?" The hospital room door was suddenly pushed open. Victoria Sterling strode in. "I did." Ethan stood barefoot on the floor, staring daggers at his mother. "Mom, what are you trying to do? What am I trying to do? Don't you know?" Victoria pulled the woman over, pointing at her face. "This face, did you fail to recognize it wasn't Summer Hayes just now?" "No, you didn't, because she looks exactly like Summer. And her voice, she practiced for days to get it just right. It's nearly identical to Summer's. You can't tell the difference unless you listen closely. Even her scent was deliberately copied from Summer." "Ethan, you like Summer Hayes? Isn't it just because of her face? She is indeed beautiful. Now I've found you an exact replica, and she's much more sensible than Summer. She doesn't want a title, and she won't get in the way of you and Molly. As for children, she can give you as many as you want. What are you not satisfied with? Tell me what you want, and I'll have her change it." "Get out," Ethan cut her off coldly. "Both of you get out." Victoria's face darkened. "Ethan, stop being so willful. Summer Hayes is not one of a kind. She is." Ethan gritted his teeth, his voice choked. "No one can replace her. To me, she is the only one." "You," Victoria's face turned ashen. "You are beyond saving." Victoria left with the woman, and the hospital room fell silent again. Ethan stumbled to the window, his hands braced on the sill, gasping for breath. The sun was shining brightly outside, but he felt a bone-deep chill. He remembered the moment he held the fake Summer, how his heart had finally felt full. But just as quickly, it was empty again. Like a soap bubble, it popped at the slightest touch. His heart ached even more than it had before he saw the imposter. "Summer," he whispered her name. The name was like a switch, controlling all the joy and sorrow of his life. Ethan grabbed his jacket and strode out. Nurses and doctors tried desperately to stop him, but he paid them no mind. He had to find her. He had to find her. Chapter 19. That evening, as Ethan walked into the villa, a teacup shattered at his feet. "So you decided to come back. We thought you'd abandoned your home for that woman." The furious rebuke came, and his body tensed. It was Molly's parents. Catherine Montgomery was sobbing quietly while Richard Montgomery pointed a finger at him. "My daughter is starving herself and refusing treatment for you, and what are you doing?" "Gallivanting around the world looking for that tramp, Summer Hayes." Hearing him mention Summer's name, Ethan's gaze turned icy. "This isn't the Montgomery Corporation. It's not your place to shout here. Stop fighting." Catherine looked up from her crying, her voice softening as she tried to persuade him. "Ethan, Molly hasn't eaten properly in days. The doctor says if she keeps this up, her condition will only get worse." Catherine's hand trembled as she pulled a stack of newspapers from her Hermes bag. "Look at what the media is writing about her: a jilted heiress, a desperate socialite. What woman could endure such humiliation?" Ethan glanced at the papers, then indifferently loosened his tie. "Mrs. Montgomery, you shouldn't be saying these things to me. Molly and I have had no relationship since the day we broke off the engagement. What do you mean it has nothing to do with you?" Richard slammed his fist on the antique coffee table. If you hadn't broken off the engagement, how would Molly have been humiliated by the media like this? What did our Molly do wrong? She gave you her whole heart, and how did you repay her? Exactly, Ethan, Catherine sobbed inconsolably. Molly has protected you since you were children. When you were 15 and kidnapped, if Molly hadn't called the police in time, you might have died, but because of that, Molly was targeted for revenge by the kidnappers and severely injured. Have you forgotten all that? I haven't forgot. Ethan's eyes remained cold. If she hadn't saved my life, this time, it wouldn't have ended with just a broken engagement. Richard was so angry he clutched his chest. You are absolutely outrageous. He grabbed a glass and hurled it at Ethan. Ethan didn't flinch. Blood trickled down from his brow bone, but he stood perfectly still, letting the drops fall onto the collar of his white shirt. With that blow, my debt to you is paid. Butler, show our guests out. He turned away coldly. Richard stood up and violently overturned the coffee table. Ethan Sterling, you bastard. From this day forward, Montgomery Corp is terminating all partnerships with the Sterling family, the port, real estate, finance. We're pulling our investments from all joint projects. If you still refuse to marry Molly, then prepare to be abandoned by everyone. The angry footsteps faded away. Only then did Ethan rise from the sofa and slowly, step by step, walk upstairs. He had just reached the second floor when his phone rang. It was his assistant. Mr. Sterling, good news, the surveillance we set up in Yuncheng has captured a figure who looks a lot like Miss Hayes. The blood in Ethan's veins nearly froze. After a long silence, get the plane ready. I'm going to Yuncheng now, Chapter 20. The private jet landed in the misty rain of Yuncheng. As soon as he deplaned, Ethan, ignoring his exhaustion, immediately drove toward the small town where Summer had been spotted. The mountain road was muddy, and the tires of the SUV skidded several times, but he didn't slow down. The car finally stopped in front of a guest house, and Ethan rushed out. Excuse me, have you seen the woman in this photo? He stood at the guest house counter, holding out the picture, and asked the owner. The guest house owner was an old man with a wrinkled face. He looked at the photo, thought for a moment, and nodded repeatedly. I've seen her. The young lady stayed here a few days ago with an old woman. They checked out yesterday morning, said they were going to cross the border. Why would Summer want to cross the border? Yuncheng was a remote border town, adjacent to several countries, none of which were very peaceful. Ethan couldn't help but worry about her safety. I think she was going to a hospital overseas. The owner lowered his voice. The young lady might have been pregnant, not feeling well, so she went to see a doctor. Ethan's heart felt like it was being squeezed by a powerful hand. Pregnant, the woman the owner was talking about had to be Summer. She really couldn't bring herself to do it. She hadn't gotten rid of their child. A wave of wild joy washed over Ethan. Do you know which direction she went? West. Thank you. After a sincere thanks, Ethan hurried away, speeding toward the western border. When he was still about 15 kilometers from his destination, the mountain road grew narrower. The forests on either side were shadowy and indistinct in the twilight. Ethan glanced at the fuel gauge and frowned. The fuel was dropping much faster than expected. Something was wrong. His car seemed to have a problem. Just as he hit the brakes, he heard a loud bang, and the car lurched violently to one side. A tire had blown out. The fuel tank and the tire had problems at the same time. Could it be that his car had been tampered with? Ethan immediately pulled a pistol from under his seat. Suddenly, 2 pops rang out from outside, and bullets pierced the car window, sending glass fragments flying. Ethan ducked instinctively. A bullet grazed the back of his neck, searing with pain, but he had no time to worry about it. He quickly unbuckled his seatbelt, got out of the car with his pistol in hand. 5 dark figures emerged from the woods beside the road. They were all dressed in identical black combat gear, their faces covered with masks, and their movements were professional and swift. These weren't ordinary thugs. They were professional killers. Ethan frowned, his mind already piecing everything together. His car had only stopped at the guest house, so the guest house owner had colluded with these killers to damage his car and ambush him here. Then what about Summer? Was the information the guest house owner gave him about Summer also fake? A bait. Who sent you? The Montgomery family. The killers made no effort to hide it. You crossed the Montgomerys, so they paid us to kill you. Anything else you want to know? By the rules of our trade, we'll let you die with your questions answered. The guest house owner's information about Summer Hayes, was it real or fake? Fake, of course. The Montgomerys knew you were looking for that woman everywhere, so they had the old man say that on purpose. It was fake. So Summer wasn't here. And the part about her not aborting the baby, the guest house owner made that up too. Ethan's heart felt like it had been hit with a hammer, a dull, throbbing pain. Chapter 21. The lead killer waved his hand, and the men closed in. But Ethan suddenly looked up, he took a deep breath and threw open the car door while backing away. He fired 3 consecutive shots, and 2 of the killers fell to the ground. Son of a bitch, he's that good. We underestimated you. Seeing 2 of his men down, the leader of the killers grew ruthless. The scene instantly erupted into a hailstorm of bullets. A bullet hit Ethan in the right shoulder. He tore off a piece of his shirt and hastily bandaged it. He was out of bullets. He decisively threw away his pistol and dove into the lake. Damn it, a killer cursed. Didn't expect the kid to be such a good swimmer. He got away. He aimed at the water's surface and unleashed a spray of bullets, but no figure emerged. Ethan swam to the shore, collapsing, drenched and gasping for breath. The lake water had turned his wound pale. Whether from blood loss or sheer exhaustion, his vision grew increasingly blurry. Just before he lost consciousness completely, he seemed to see a face, a familiar face that haunted his dreams. She was standing there, looking at him with surprise and worry. It was Summer. Ethan gave a self-deprecating smile. He was dreaming again. Summer had already saved him once. How could she possibly save him a second time? Besides, she wasn't even here. Ethan closed his eyes, letting himself sink into darkness. He woke up on a simple wooden bed. Sunlight streamed through the window, and the air was filled with floating dust motes and the faint scent of herbs. "You're awake?" A dark-skinned young man pushed the door open, holding a bowl of steaming medicinal soup. "You passed out by the lake last night. You almost didn't make it." Ethan struggled to prop himself up. The movement pulled at his wound, causing a sharp pain. He looked around. It was a simple farmhouse, with dried chili peppers and corn hanging on the walls and farming tools piled in a corner. "Did you save me?" Ethan turned to ask. "Yeah." The young man smiled and handed him the bowl of medicine. "Drink up. Now that you're awake, I don't have to feed it to you spoonful by spoonful." A strange sense of loss flickered through Ethan. He couldn't forget the last thing he saw before passing out. Summer appearing before him just like that, just like the rainy night a year ago when she found him on the side of the road. Ethan masked the disappointment in his eyes. "Thank you, by the way. How long was I unconscious?" "About 3 or 4 days, the young man said, looking at him. "You lost a lot of blood. If you'd been found any later, you might not have been saved." Ethan gave a bitter smile. Looking down at his bandaged wound, he thought of Summer again. After drinking the medicine, Ethan threw off the covers and, enduring the sharp pain, got out of bed. "What are you doing?" "I have to go. I'm still looking for someone. I can't delay." "But your wound hasn't healed. It's dangerous to go out like this." "I can't wait." Ethan grabbed his dried clothes from the side and put them on. "I have to find someone very important. I have to find her." Seeing he couldn't stop him, the young man sighed. "It's getting dark outside. Wait until tomorrow. I'll make you something to eat tonight." Ethan glanced out the window, was silent for a moment, and finally nodded. After dinner, Ethan sat in his room, thinking about where to look for Summer the next day. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside the window, followed by the sound of the wooden door being pushed open. "You're here," the local young man greeted the visitor enthusiastically. Ethan didn't pay much attention, but in the next second, the blood in his veins instantly froze. "Yes. How is he? Is he still not awake?" It was Summer's voice. He wouldn't mistake it. Ethan shot to his feet, no longer feeling the tearing pain of his wound. Chapter 22. He held his breath and crept to the wall, peering through the crack in the door. An oil lamp was lit by the entrance. Summer stood with her back to him, dressed in simple, coarse clothing. She had lost a lot of weight. Her shoulders were so thin, it seemed a gust of wind could blow her over. The young man, Leo, answered with a wide smile. "He's already awake. He insisted on leaving, but I stopped him. He agreed to wait until tomorrow." Summer's voice became a little unnatural. "He's really awake?" "Yeah," Leo nodded vigorously. "He even asked who saved him. I did as you said and told him it was me." "Did he believe it?" "He did." "That's good." Summer turned to leave. Ethan stood behind the door. his heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst from his chest. It was really her this time, it wasn't his imagination. The person standing outside was Summer. She was the one who had saved him from the lake. She had saved him a second time. Ethan desperately wanted to rush out right now, hold her tight, and tell her how crazy he'd gone looking for her these past few months. But he couldn't. He knew Summer too well. If he appeared abruptly, she would definitely run, and he would never find her again. He had been searching for her for too long. He didn't want to lose her again, so he had to wait. Wait for the right moment, for a reason she couldn't refuse. Outside the window, moonlight spilled into the courtyard. Summer's departing figure was stretched long and thin. Ethan stood in the darkness, silently watching her back, his eyes so intense they nearly burned with unshed tears. The next morning, Ethan told Leo he wasn't leaving, that he needed to stay for a while longer. Leo was a bit surprised but didn't press for details. The gate of the small courtyard next door opened. Ethan held his breath. Two figures emerged, supporting each other. It was Summer, taking her mother for a walk. Julie Hayes's mental state seemed to have improved. She walked quietly beside her daughter, and the two slowly made their way down the village path. Ethan followed from a distance, keeping far enough away not to be discovered. Just watching her back was enough to satisfy him. After walking for a while, Summer suddenly stopped and glanced back. Ethan quickly ducked behind a tree. "What is it?" her mother asked. "Nothing." Summer looked away. She felt like someone was following them, but it could have just been her imagination. In the afternoon, after settling her mother, Summer took a bamboo basket and went up the mountain to gather herbs. Ethan followed. The mountain path was rugged. His wound hadn't healed, and every step sent a wave of cold sweat and pain through him, but he never gave up. Summer reached a clearing halfway up the mountain and suddenly stopped. "Come out." Ethan froze, then he smiled bitterly. She had found him after all. He slowly stepped out and stood a few paces behind her. Summer turned around. From a distance that was neither too close nor too far, her eyes were so calm it made his heart panic. "Ethan Sterling, what are you trying to do?" Ethan smiled. "Summer, I've been looking for you for a long time. Come back with me, okay? I'll marry you, give you the title of Mrs. Sterling, give you everything, just don't leave me again." Summer's brow furrowed tighter. "Ethan, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. From the day I left, we were finished." Everything that had happened in Jingzhou was now a part of her past. She was a new Summer now. Ethan took a step forward, his emotions running high. "The person I want to marry is you and Summer. We have a child." For a fleeting moment, a dazed look crossed Summer's face. "Not anymore," she said coldly. "I got rid of the child. I wanted to leave you completely, so why would I keep the baby?" Chapter 23. Ethan staggered back a step in disbelief. "You really did it? Summer, could you really bear to do that?" Summer looked at him, her eyes showing no trace of pain, only resolute finality. "Why couldn't I? That child should never have existed in the first place. I just made the right decision." Ethan's heart felt as if a knife had been plunged into it. He stood there in silence, his expression unreadable. Summer turned to leave, but he spoke again suddenly. "If the child is gone, so be it. Summer, I only want you. Come back with me." Summer had lost her patience. "Ethan, I already told you I won't." Just then, a sound came from the woods. Ethan's pupils contracted. Killers, the three assassins who had cornered him that day, had found him here. "Summer, look out," he roared, lunging toward her. Bang! The gunshot echoed through the valley. Ethan grunted, a bullet hitting him in the back, but he continued to shield Summer with his body. "Ethan!" Summer stared in horror at the blood seeping from his chest. "Are you okay? Run!" He gritted his teeth and pushed her away. "Run!" The three killers emerged from the woods, raising their guns with cold smiles. "How touching. So this is the broad you came all this way to find. She's a real looker." "Boss, after we send this rich boy on his way, let's have some fun with the girl, a little reward for ourselves." "Good idea, ha 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 ha." The men's lewd laughter filled the air. Ethan gritted his teeth and stood up, placing himself in front of Summer. "If any of you touches her, I'll kill you. Pa, you can't even save yourself and you're still trying to act tough. Let me send you on your way." The killer pulled the trigger. 3 sharp cracks echoed, startling the crows from the branches. The gun in Ethan's hand was faster than theirs. The 3 killers, their faces masks of shock, collapsed with bullets in their foreheads. Only then did Ethan slowly sink to his knees. "Ethan," Summer screamed, rushing to support him. "You're going to be okay, you have to be okay." There was a bloody hole in his chest. Her hands trembled as she tried to cover it, but she couldn't stop the bleeding. Blood poured out endlessly, as if it would never stop. Summer sobbed, her whole body shaking, but Ethan smiled, raising a trembling hand to wipe away her tears. "Don't cry. As long as you're safe, that's all that matters. Hold on." Summer's voice trembled as she staggered to help him up. "Ethan, you have to hold on, I'll get you down the mountain." Her tears fell on his face, bitter and salty. She was really worried about him. Ethan smiled weakly. That was enough. As long as he was still in her heart, that was enough. "I can't hold on." His voice grew fainter, his eyes slowly closing. "Summer, I love you." Summer's sobs caught in her throat. "Ethan," she looked at him, her vision blurred by tears. "I forgive you. As long as you live, I'll forgive you. Our family of 3 will be together forever." Ethan's body stiffened. A family of 3? Summer. "Yes, I didn't get rid of the baby. I couldn't. I hate you. I hate you so much, but as much as I hate you, that's how much I love you, Ethan. Do you hear me? I won't let you die," she cried her heart out. But the hand of the man in her arms finally fell, lifeless. In his last moments, Ethan remembered the night they pledged their lives to each other. He had sworn to the moon, "For the rest of my life, I will love only Summer Hayes. If I break this vow, may I die a horrible death." In truth, he had not broken that vow. In his entire life, he had only ever loved one woman. But in the end, he had still broken her heart. Perhaps it was fate's punishment, letting him die with regret before she did. If there was a next life, he would cherish her and never let her be hurt again. End of story.